All right, greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another Insurance Sales Success live training. You are here with yours truly, David Duford, also with Duford Insurance Group trainer, Joe Busalacchi. Joe, say hello.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
How you
Good to be
doing?
here.
Yes. So we're here to do I would call this like an introductory call on what final expense is all about. The reason we're doing this is because a lot of people inside of the Insurance Sales Success training site that we give for free at davidduford.com/ISS, shameless plug, are getting started, getting licensed, and are exploring their options in the business. And I like to create content that's helpful and kind of give you some clarity on how this business works and what to expect from it. So some things we're going to talk about today, just to go over real quick. Let's see. First of all, let me find my spot here. First of all, we're going to talk about skill sets. So what is final expense? Really brief overview about how that works. We're going to talk about the skill sets necessary to be successful. Some people are worried that selling insurance is a very technical product. There's a lot to know. We'll kind of dispel that worry to some extent from a product side when it comes to final expense as we get going. We're going to talk about what differentiates those who are mediocre in the business, which is most agents. Frankly, most agents fail out of the business. Unfortunately, it's like 90% plus of the business. It's useful to know what separates the successful agents from those mediocre agents. So Joe and I will kind of go back and forth and explain what we've seen training agents and kind of what the differentiating factors are. We'll talk about the best methodologies for finding people to sell to. How do you prospect? How do you find leads? Where do you go to get them? Leads are a critical component to your success as an agent, and you need to know systematically how to get them on a consistent basis. We're also going to talk about the landmines. There's a lot of problems in this business when it comes to joining an agency. There's big MLM pushes and cultures throughout permeating the final expense business. We'll talk about why that's a problem and its consequences to you and other things you can avoid. And we'll kind of talk about some good carriers to use. Maybe you're wondering, like, where do I start with? Which companies do I start with as far as which carriers, that kind of thing. So again, perfect training here today. If you are looking to get started selling final expense, you want some sober advice and direction on how it works and to give you some clarity because so many people fail this business unnecessarily. And we at Duford Insurance Group, whether you join us or not, we're about helping. And we believe in the law of reciprocity. We help you, you help us somehow, some way. We're building our treasures in heaven at the least, right, Joe? So yeah, so welcome. Glad to have you here. Joe, why don't you jump on and give us a little introduction about yourself in case our audience is new to you.
Yeah, so my name is Joe Busalacchi. I have been with the Duford Insurance Group for 5 years now. I have learned the hard way that the system works and that you need training. I say hard way because I spent a lot of time and money banging myself against the wall. And once I came to the epiphany that the system and the training works, my numbers started to go up almost I want to say overnight, but like within a month, there was like this big change going on. So I train new agents to get out into the field with our free lead program. And I am just all about the fundamentals of the scripts and the training and constantly listening and participating in training videos. So
Awesome.
Here, yeah.
Thank you, Joe. And well, you mentioned, oh yeah, I just wanted to clarify too, the focus of this is, a lot of this will apply to all final expense, but the focus today is the in-person experience. And I'll kind of start with that just as an explanation here. There is definitely agents, in case you don't know, who are selling remotely, who are selling over the phone. Duford Insurance Group supports that entirely. Tim Hildebrand is our trainer on the telesell side. It works very well for those people who are best suited for it. One of the things that you guys as new agents are going to have to decide is how you're going to execute the sales process. I'll get Joe's thoughts on this in a minute, but you really have two choices. You can go all in on telesales. There's not a lot of Zoom-based stuff like this because our clients are older. They're not as technologically savvy, and getting them on a Zoom call is a little bit too prohibitive and not conducive to making sales. So we teach agents to sell over the phone who want to do things remotely. The other side of this that Joe does, as well as David Heath, if you buy your leads in our broker program, is the face-to-face methodology. And I'll kind of have you, Joe, kind of set it up. I would categorize final expense face-to-face as old school selling. Can you kind of describe, briefly what it's like selling final expense in person, what an agent can expect?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Selling final expense, you are selling a demographic of low income to low middle income seniors. Like Dave said, they're not all technologically savvy. I mean, it's not that uncommon that you run into a senior that doesn't even have an email in 2023. So,
right. And if they got one, Lord help them to actually use or find the thing, right? So,
oh yeah, that's very uncommon that they can use it. So yeah, for sure. Okay. And like Dave said, it's the traditional way of doing things. We are at the kitchen table or maybe at the couch and we're having a conversation. As far as contacting people, we are door knocking. We are showing up and saying, hello, I'm here because of the card that you filled out, if you're at a certain stage in your game, you might be getting on the phone to set appointments over the phone. But yeah, very traditional things. I mean, things that have been in person and if in person, how long has that been going on? Thousands of years, telephone, and in person, and even direct mail cards. I mean, my gosh, are we going back to the 1970s? Maybe before that.
Probably before that, yeah. So, yeah, and that's how final expense is. Like, the cool thing about final expense is it is an old-fashioned way of doing business. It doesn't require technological know-how to run marketing on Facebook or to operate a bunch of software-based approaches to selling. It truly is showing up at the person's house who requested the information, saying your script to get in, like we train you on, and then sitting down at the kitchen table with Mr. and Mrs. Jones to talk about what they're looking for and how our product solves their problem. It's that simple. It's rinse and repeat. It's not a complicated process. It's not like selling, like an annuity where there's a lot more moving parts, or even like Medicare where there's a bunch of information to know. It's a simple product, and it really is what I would call an activity-based product, meaning if you like to work and like work ethic isn't a problem with you, as long as you got people to talk to and leads to see, sky's the limit. It's a nice thing. Joe, let's clarify a couple of things here because I think it's important to understand. We talked about one of the things in the preview about getting leads and having people to talk to. That's a big question a lot of agents have because let's face it, a lot of people don't want to cold call. The idea of picking up the phone and calling some random person who didn't request your information is terrifying. I know I wouldn't do it if I had to do it as a new agent. Explain to the audience how we find interested prospects.
Yes, we buy leads. We either do direct mail or we do Facebook. There's a couple other ways to do it, but that is, if I had to percentagize it, that's 95% of the way that we do things. So we basically put an ad out there, whether it's an actual card or it's on Facebook. People put their name, their number, their address, and their favorite hobby. If it's a Facebook ad, we get that information and then we most likely door knock them or maybe call them as a supplemental way of contacting them. So it's all leads based. We are buying leads on a weekly basis and we are going to see the people.
Is there any cold calling with at least what we do, but also industry wide? What's the common approach?
Industry wide, well, with us, we are not cold calling. Yes, that is not something that we do. I have been here for 5 years. I have never been told one time that I should pick up a phone and dial in a phone book or any of that jazz. Industry wide, I think, depending on the agency you're with, probably some agencies want you to do go kind of cold call your warm market.
Yeah, right.
So to speak. And as far as true cold calling success, I would dare to say maybe some of the really old school guys are still doing that. stuff that, like, you got some guy who's been in this business since the 1960s, 70s, or early 80s, and they go in the trenches of cold calling, and they're just like, they just have this mentality: I'm not spending a dollar on a lead,
Right.
but that is by far not the norm. The people that you see on YouTube and all these places, these juggernauts that are making, two, three, four, $500,000 a year, these people are buying leads, folks, like there is no tomorrow. Like, they are buying leads on a weekly basis and running through them. That's the name of the game.
Yeah. And yeah, just make sure everybody understands that, like, we incorporate paid leads where the agent either buys a lead or we provide them for free, depending on how you get started as an agent with us. But that generally is the rule in the business writ large, is that you're getting leads of people who actually requested the information, as opposed to having to just walk down some random street and knock on doors and hope somebody will pick up and be interested. Not that that doesn't work. It's just very difficult for the average person to scale and continually do that. We find that a lead-driven approach tends to be more sustainable, more enjoyable to the agent, and frankly gets better results. One thing that we don't do, and this is something that you have to you'll discover as you go through it, we're not big advocates at Duford Insurance Group of pushing agents to sell their friends and family or their warm market. Not that it's a bad thing per se. It's just kind of has that connotation of the MLM type of culture. Hey, great, glad to have you on. Talk to all your friends and family, and then also try to recruit them. Like, it all kind of goes hand in glove. We pretty much avoid that for the most part. And what you find with a lot of the friends and family approach, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is not sustainable. Once you run out of friends and family who won't pick your phone calls up anymore because they're tired of you harassing them to buy something, if you haven't developed referrals, which most of these organizations don't teach, you're kind of out of luck, So you need something that lasts forever, like doing direct mail or Facebook. I was in the field full time out of Chattanooga, small to mid-sized city, for 6 years consistently, right? Working 30 appointments, from low as 15 up to as high as 40 a week. So there's tons of people with paid leads that want what we want or want what you got. And it's a way to make this business more sustainable. So, and what is your preferred, just to clarify for the new agents, what have you seen personally as an agent yourself, Joe, but also with our agents that we're training? What sources of leads have you seen to be the best for new agents to use?
Yeah, direct mail or Facebook ads. I like both of them. I do believe that direct mail is king, just because you minimize the driving time. With Facebook leads, you are going to drive around the universe quite a bit more. I have noticed, though, with Facebook leads, typically on average, the monthly premium is higher than a direct mail lead. But when it comes, just because direct mail, the proximity of how close the leads are together, I think that just makes it like that much more worth it. But but here's the thing: there's agents that are killing it with direct mail. There's agents that are killing it with Facebook leads. Those are the two things that are working in this business.
Yeah, and I've gotten to the point where I used to wholeheartedly say direct mail, direct mail, direct mail. Don't fool with anything else. And then, but my mind has changed. As long as you get the right kind of Facebook lead, I think they're on par with direct mail. And in some cases, depending on the state, where response rates could be really low for direct mail, better. I mean, we got John Campbell. I mean, he's writing 6,000 to 10,000 a week on Facebook leads. Richard Talbot, he's writing 8 to 10 grand a week on Facebook leads. He just wrote 10,900. And then Dustin, your agent, we're going to put his video up today. He wrote 4,400 AP in his first week. So stuff works very well.
Can I touch on that? Because you made a good point that I didn't say. With not really with direct mail. I don't think direct mail, you're going to pay a pretty penny for a lead. You're going to get basically, they're all in the same quality space. Facebook, you get what you paid for. You spend $20 on a Facebook lead as opposed to spending $35 on a Facebook lead. There is going to be a difference. So there definitely is there is a good argument to say that the more you pay in a Facebook lead, then the quality is going to ramp up.
Right, 100%. Yeah, not all Facebook leads are the same, folks. Yeah, just be very, very aware of that. Some are definitely better than others. So, okay, so let's talk about some kind of like skill sets, some character traits, because the thing is, I always like to let everybody know who's watching this video live and also who are watching this later as a recording on YouTube, is most agents fail out of this business. Like, everybody here needs to understand that getting in, the vast majority of people are going to fail. And you need to start off with the mindset of like, wait a minute, you mean 9 out of 10, if not more, fail? What can I do to avoid that? So it's really important to look for opportunities to give yourself an edge or an advantage, right? You want all the odds in your favor when you're partaking in a new activity like this. It's a performance activity, much like doing sports. So you got to make all the edges in your favor. So let's talk about a couple of things here, Joe. I want your insight on this, and I'll kind of provide mine. What are the skill sets an agent needs in order to be successful selling in person for final expense?
Let's see. Well, you definitely need to be somewhat thick-skinned, being out there and seeing people. You have to be a disciplined individual. You really do. You have to own the scripts. You have to take on the training. You have to treat training like it is your job. It is simply not. It's simply not going to be enough to just get leads and go door knock and see some people. You are going to have to do ongoing training. I like to equate, say, an NBA basketball player who, from age 5 to the day they retired as a superstar at age 38, they practiced dribbling a basketball, working on a free throw shot, passing a ball, and doing a layup for literally 30 plus years. These are the things that it takes. You have to be willing to take the rejection. You have to be not only disciplined, you have to have a heart for these final expense people too, because you'll get tired of dealing with the people if you don't have a heart that really wants to help these people out. So that's a big part of it too. But the discipline, not allowing to be like super analytical and have to think through everything, right, and kind of figure all this stuff out in your head. You got to go like lizard brain and be like, man, I'm going to follow the steps and I'm going to train on them and I'm going to go do the thing. And like Dave said, I'm going to go rinse and repeat. So discipline, heart for the people. And you know what? I'm going to say this too, wanting the money. You got to want 6 figures in this business. You got to want the money. I preach this on my morning meetings, like, to only want a mediocre salary of like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 full time. That's not enough. Like, it's not enough with the challenges. You want the money, the big money that's going to make your money problems fade away. So discipline, heart for the people, the money. Don't think too much about the process. Just do it.
Yeah, those are excellent points. I'm going to kind of think about this myself. So for me, the big things are, this is more of a character oriented job than I think it is really a skill set. You have to have the stuff in quotes, right? The stuff is hard to train people on. And that's kind of what we're always looking for in individuals to join us. What is the stuff? It's kind of a combination of work ethic. Like, if I have to motivate you to go to work and put in 8, 10, 12 hours a day and deal with the ups and the downs and like, it's going to be hard. We all need motivation as kind of like a injection of maybe some stimulation to make us feel good. And I get that. But to motivate you to even get started, you got to have some drive and desire to do well. I think you have to be humble, right? Especially if you think coaching is important. You have to come to this ready to be corrected in a constructive way and not take it personal. And then actually listen and discipline yourself to applying what you've learned. So much pain and suffering in this business from agents that can be saved if they've A, got a good mentor, and B, very important, actually listen to what they say and make the changes immediately and not get all up in their head, like Joe was saying, and like fixing it or wondering why, or maybe doing it this way because so-and-so on YouTube said it, right? They always will have that. But the thing is adherence to a system. And I think that's where the humility part comes in. Just follow the system, whether it's my agency or another. We all have, the good agencies have systems, and people are placed in those because that's what produces success for that agent, assuming you're not an MLM. Their system is to drain you of your money. I'm talking about organizations that actually train you to sell. If you just tag into their system and stop thinking so much, it actually works, so it's very important to humble yourself and be disciplined to follow it. To me, this is less of the stuff and more of the other factors of success. Number one, you got to have a lot of leads, right? The best problem to have is too many people to talk to, right? People are worried sometimes about, I don't know. People worry about not having enough people to talk to. I get it. Or they say things like what you'll hear from agents who are experienced that never really get to the next level. They'll say things like, if I can just get in front of somebody, I'm going to make sales. And they're probably pretty good, but they're missing element that takes them from just like above mediocre to like great. Once they've got the stuff and all the other aspects, it's leads. You have to have enough people to talk to. You've got to have good quality leads at scale, right? Because if you have everything else, if you have the stuff, you probably find a way if you got all the stuff in right proportion, but it's really freaking hard. And if you have the leads in your favor and you got people to talk to, and you got the work ethic, the discipline, the stuff, life is great. Yeah, you're stressed out because you got so many people to talk to. You're running behind, but you're writing a lot of business, which is a lot better than the worst problem to have, which is too few people to talk to and wondering how you're going to make your bills and make your payments, right? So, and the thing is too, the other thing I'll notice, and Joe's an excellent example as an agent of this, and I've seen this, and we've got a weekly wins board on our training group. Agents voluntarily post their numbers up there. And I like for them to post the leads they're using so agents can see what leads are working. And then also if they've got a story behind it, I like them to post the story too. And here's why I bring this up. Joe's always been good when he's out there selling in the mix to post the stories, especially the ones where you would not think that there would be a success story out of it. And the reason I bring this up is because, in my opinion, the difference between being mediocre, and this is really important, the difference between being mediocre in this business and being very successful, like a top 10% producer, six-figure income earner, it's not like you've got this chasm of skill sets that the mediocre person has versus the successful one. The skill sets are pretty close. Like they probably are about the same in their skill set of selling, let's say. But the difference is in the little things that they do around the margins, right? The little things that most people won't do because they kind of talk themselves out of it because it's inconvenient or they're down for the day. And Joe, can you bring up the story? Because this is I think this kind of personifies it. Talk to me about the person that you talked to that cursed you out on the phone and how that went.
Yeah, I'd like to say two examples. So the person that cusses me out over the phone, gives me a hard no, and I door knock them. So there was a lady umpteen months ago. I'm in the middle of my pitch and she just yells out, she goes, shut up, and slams the phone down. I go over there about 3 days later. When I go up to the door, do I say, hey, I'm the guy that you said shut up to? No, I'm the guy that you hung up on. No, I don't do none of that. I say my door knocking pitch. She lets me in. We actually sat out on her porch. She lives on a beautiful acreage on the side of a hill. She gets a policy. At the end of the meeting, she says, okay, that felt good. She goes, Joe, you came at the perfect time. This is the lady that said, shut up. Wow. And so here's the other one too, though, that I realized where I've been missing money for years, and I try not to think about how much money I've missed, is say you set an appointment over the phone or you door knock someone and you set up an appointment and they call back to cancel. Don't pick up the phone and they say, hey, I want to cancel. And you say, okay, well, no problem. I'll just call you back. Would you like to reschedule? No, I don't want to. I'll just call you back. Okay, bye. You know what you do? You don't answer the phone. You don't respond to the text, and you go over there as if they did not cancel. I sell those deals all day because those are good deals. What's happening is they have buyer's anxiety. They have some anxiety about the appointment, but they seriously were thinking about getting involved in the sales cycle. That's why they agreed to the appointment. Now they're trying to back out. I go over there, they answer the door, and they say, did you not get my voicemail? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just so busy. I got a lot of people to see, and I just need a few minutes to show you about the program, what you do with it. I just do my door knock rebuttal. I sell those people all day. So people that give you hard no's over the phone, people that try to call you back and cancel, you need to go see those people straight
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. And that's what I'm describing as the margins, because most people won't do it. You get told to shut up over the phone or F you or God knows what. You're like, how dare you? How offensive this person is. And you feel righteous in saying, well, I'm not going to see this person if they're going to be this disrespectful. And I don't want to risk like something happening. But the reality is, if you think about it, you really don't know what happened. You know, were they having a really hard day? Do they suffer from excruciating pain? You just don't know. And to take it personally and end any attempt to try to help these people out is actually proven to be a great way to lose a lot of money. You know, and that little difference and following through on that, executing on that over time is the difference maker. And it's an exponential return too, because the average agent won't go that little extra step that's outside of their comfort zone. For example, seeing the people that tell them to hang up on you, that seeing the people who at the end of the day, when you've been, you know, just rejected all day long and you're feeling bad for yourself, could go home and watch Netflix, or you could knock on another door and be told no again. Like those decisions, those little micro decisions you make are really the ultimate outcome of your success or mediocrity, probably failure. So that's a big thing in this business, guys. That's what we notice the difference. It's not like some of these agents have some sort of like secret ninja sales skills that nobody else has. I mean, everybody sees the videos I put out to train, right? There's tons of other content creators on YouTube to help you that their scripts work. It's not the scripts. It's the scripts are important, but it's the discipline to take it to the utmost possible level, to squeeze every last bit out of it. That is the difference maker, and to do that over time. And the more you can do that, the more success you're going to see. Joe, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I do, because you brought up a good point about like getting discouraged and going home and watching TV and stuff. I have noticed this with people that I train, that speaking of work ethic, what will happen with some of them, unfortunately, they'll go out there, they're zealous to work and they're ready to door knock early in the morning. They go out there, and by the mid-afternoon they be getting thrown around and they get discouraged, and guess what they do at about 2:30, 3 in the afternoon? They decide, I'm just going to go home, rather than just sticking it out and door knock. I can't tell you how many times I've had like this day where it's just like nothing is going right, and I knock on that last door. I say, you know, this person, it's 5:30, 6 p.m., 6:30. I got one person I'm going to door knock on them. And I go over there and I make $1,000, and boom, I have a good day. I had a great day just by that one little decision, rather than just going home. And I get it. It's hard, because if you're not used to getting rejected, then you don't realize that, man, door number 5,783 might be the magic door. Like, yeah, you have to keep going through the doors, and you need to have a full, like Dave said, you got to have a full work day. You can't pack it up early because you got shot down 7 times in a row. That is so big. I see agents just pack it up completely and say, you know, I don't want to do this no more, because I call them out on it. Like, why stop at 2:30? And it's because they get discouraged.
Yeah, and that's that example of that stuff. You just have to have the stick-to-itiveness. And here's the thing, all of y'all who are new in the business, you're going to experience this at some point. This is not some sort of like training for people who are going to be the exception. This is the norm. You're going to have really great days, really terrible, piss poor days, weeks, months. It's going to be ups and downs, more ups than downs if you have proper training, if you have proper support, and you have kind of some help guiding your vision, your why, if you will. But this stuff is nobody's immune from this. And we're actually thankful for it. Maybe kind of silly to think about it like that, but I'm thankful for the tough times, because they make me a better agent. They test my wit and my mindset. And I know that this kind of difficulty every agent's going to experience. And if they can't make it through it, it is Darwinian thinning the herd that happens. It gets rid of the weak hands and allows this business to stay lucrative. And if you think about it like that, if it was easy for everybody, then everybody would be making a lot of money. But then at some point, we wouldn't get paid all this commission, because the insurance companies would say, hey, this is a little easy. Let's just get rid of all these agents and sell it direct. There's a reason why agents are in the mix and they make so much per sale, because it's not easy. It's simple, but there's a lot of stuff mentally that a lot of people can't handle. And that thinning the herd thing is an important concept to understand, that you should embrace. You be thankful that it's hard, because everybody gets tested. and it never ends, but it's the way to create your sustainability in the business. So let's transition gear. And also for anybody that has questions, you're welcome to post them to the chat. Happy to, Joe or myself, happy to answer any. Biggest landmines to avoid when considering partnering with final expense agency. You have anything you'd like to kind of describe, Joe, on like the biggest problem agents run into when it comes to joining an agency that they should be aware of?
You got to decipher whether this agency is like us and we're training to bust out sales, and we are training for people to go deal for deal and make money, or are you joining an agency where recruiting is just as important, if not more important, than learning the skill set? Now, I will say, and I think you kind of alluded to this, Dave, correct if I'm wrong, maybe, like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if you're going to go with that system, but you have to be all in on that system. So that's where you got to watch out. Like me personally, I said, hey, I come from a sales and telemarketing background. I want to learn to sell insurance to make money selling insurance. So I did my homework, and I realized, whoa, wait a minute, there's agencies that are doing this, but then there's these other agencies. It seems like there's a lot of recruiting and a lot of other stuff going on that's just honing in on a skill set. So you got to make sure that you're going where you want to go with that. If you like recruiting people left and right, I like, more power to you, and do it. And if you want to do sale for sale, then you want to do something like we're doing. And recruiting, I think, is a good thing, but we just believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, we just believe that you need to have some street credibility, right? And you need to know how to sell the deal, and then you can start doing some recruiting. Not just, I started tomorrow, now I'm going to recruit all my friends and family. But I mean, so you just need to do your homework and figure out what this agency is all about.
That's right on the head there. You hit it. The problem that there's a big problem in the life insurance business and final expense term insurance is that the MLM culture and philosophy permeates through probably three out of four agencies that you're going to see out there. And it's hard to differentiate if you don't have experience with the MLM side of the world, or, because what they'll talk about. So what's MLM? MLM is, I think of like Herbalife or Amway, and it's an idea to where you've got this network you join, and then you can sell product, right? But it's not just about product sales. In fact, it's more about recruiting other people to recruit other people to recruit, right? And then the product sales are kind of happen as a byproduct, accidentally almost. But there's all these other methodologies in place to extract your money along the way as you go through the process. That's kind of the complaint with MLMs, is there's a whole culture. It's not just this system, but it's a culture of like in the insurance space, showing off your car, your money, your watches, your planes, right? And all this kind of like what I call conspicuous consumerism, just all that stuff, right? You got to be very careful. And most agents, my suggestion is, recruiting is great. Obviously, I love it. I do it. It's what we do at Duford Insurance Group. But I think it's a wiser process to actually know what you're doing first and have experience. And you don't have to be the best agent, but you need to be able to provide value as the trainer and recruiter to the people you're recruiting. And that only comes through firsthand experience. I wouldn't want to learn how to plumb and be a plumber from a guy who's never actually done it before, right? Might be a messy, a situation, no pun intended. You get it? Like it's all kind of like, this isn't rocket science here. Like if you're going to recruit, at least know what you're doing. Be able to bring people in, because you're bringing people who would otherwise do another business or perhaps another career. There's an opportunity cost. There's a risk, right? And you, I think, have a personal responsibility to take these people through and be able to train and show them the system and be a shining example of how it works before you get into this process of thinking that the riches are in recruiting. Here's my point. Be very aware when you're looking around at agencies to join. See what they're concerned with. Are they talking more about things like, There's one of them calling me now. Cease and desist order. Just kidding. Are they worried more about things like recruiting? When you sit down and go to their opportunity videos or their meetings or webinars, are they talking about the recruiting and the pyramid that comes from it and all the money you're going to make, right? Are they talking more about the hype and not the substance, right? That's the real indicator that I teach agents to look for to answer that question. Is this company legit, or is this a real company, or is this an MLM? If it smells off, then it probably is. And you should probably continue to do your due diligence and find another organization. And here's the thing too, I'll add this in. I've been thinking about this lately. It's hard to trust reviews or even the referrals you get from agents, because a lot of these reviews that you'll find online, they're all astroturf is the term I use. They're all fake. The managers come in and tell how great it is, and you really can't get a very good perspective. They're almost bad as Amazon reviews or Airbnb reviews. It's just, you can't even trust anything. And that's kind of how it is with these reviews, like on Glassdoor and other places, because it's hard to get, because they're all incentivized to play the game, to continue the process. And you're never really going to get a fair perspective, because unfortunately, in a lot of cases, like I jokingly made there a second ago, a lot of these organizations, if you have criticisms, they'll send a cease and desist. They'll allege lawsuits or libel. It's all specious, but there are big companies out there that you all have heard of that are literally sending cease and desist anytime their name is mentioned in a YouTube title. And pretty much everybody who's done a YouTube video that's an influencer has gotten one of these, including me, from said company. And the fact that they can't handle criticism should tell you everything. So my point is it's a difficult process. Trust your instincts, know what signs to look for. And always, if you think it's important to know this craft of selling, always look for agencies that put that front and center. They should rarely, if ever, talk about recruiting. It should all be about how to sell successfully. And then also look at the comp grid too. That's another important thing. Where does your commission start, and how do you raise your commissions? You'll find a lot of these MLM focused agencies, what they do is they start you at something like, I've seen like 25%, 50%, which if you're getting free leads at 50%, that's not bad at all, but you're not in most cases. And the way that you get higher from there with these organizations is through a process of recruiting. It's like, write this much business with a team, and the amount of business to write whatever that number is usually requires a team. And the funny thing, of course, is that compared to organizations like ours and other agent-minded companies that want to actually train you to sell, even those advanced commissions are way less than what you'll find with us and with others. Why do they do that? Because it's the game they play. And the people at the top of the pyramid, like all of those, are the ones who really make the most money. So anyways, just something to be aware of. Big landmines. Do your due diligence, ask questions. If it doesn't pass a sniff test, then listen to your instinct. Perfect. Okay. So, and again, questions, feel free to throw in the chat. And then as we wrap this up here, another question we get asked a lot in the final expense space is like, what are some good companies to work with? As far as not the agencies, of course, I'll say ours is the greatest, but that's a little biased. But we're talking about the actual insurance carriers. Like, some people say, well, which one's good or which one's bad? Can you give us, Joe, some guidelines on what makes for a good final expense carrier that's both friendly to the agent and to the client?
Yes. So I would find companies that have lenient underwriting, or that just because they're got this one ailment that they're going to automatically not give them first day coverage. So underwriting is one. It's just overall, do they have good underwriting? Do they give an instant decision at the meeting? That's big. In this day and age, the majority of companies can give an instant decision with an electronic application. So I would look for companies that, one, do an electronic application, and two, offer an instant decision by the time you hit the submit button, because it is not fun to leave a house thinking you have a deal, and lo and behold, 2 or 3 business days later, you get an email from the carrier that said underwriting did a review and this person is not qualified. Now you got to go back. It's much easier to, for whatever reason, maybe they didn't know about a medication. I mean, they're seniors, sometimes they forget or they don't know everything that's going on, or maybe they took a medication and they stopped a year ago. I don't know. But anyways, it's much easier to get a non-approval in the home and then pivot to another company that will accept them, and you still walk out with the deal. So you underwriting, instant decision, and the other one is how friendly, how agency friendly is it as far as administrative wise? Because there are, we won't mention no names, but there are companies that are an administrative headache, and I just won't use them. I just get to the point where I'm just not doing it. So underwriting, ease of use for an instant decision, and ease of use for the agent, just general, when I have to call in and do different legwork and stuff.
Yeah. And Stephen, I see your question down there. Here's kind of how I would answer that. And the good thing is more and more carriers are trending this direction. And what I'm going to state here may change, because some of these carriers change their underwriting. They change up their mix, right? Like it's always a living, breathing process. So if you're watching this in the future, this may change. So a couple of carriers I like. Prosperity Life is a good company. We like them a lot. We use them a lot for the new agents. It's just a well-rounded, easy to use company. If you're in person, they have a total e-app process that renders an instant decision most of the time. That's powerful because you get to leave the home and know the deal is closed. Their prices are mid-range. They're not super competitive. They're not overpriced. They're just right there in the middle. And they're just a good overall company that covers a lot of major issues pretty fairly. They also have a 10% bonus every quarter on issue paid business with no cap. If you put $50,000 annual premium with Prosperity, they'll pay you $5,000 right every quarter if that's what you did. And there's no chargebacks on that $5,000 too. So they don't do a convention trip or, like an incentive trip like some of these other companies do. They just bonus out extra money to the agent. So that's pretty cool. And then you can go spend the money on your own trips, kind of how I look at it. I also like Foresters. Foresters is really good, more for the face-to-face agent than I would say the telesales agent. The reason why is that it has either a paper app or an electronics application, but it requires, if you're not remote, an electronic signature. And I'm sorry, if you are remote, it requires an electronic signature. And if you have to get Mrs. Mildred, your final expense prospect, to do anything on a computer to complete the app, you're going to lose it about half the time. It's just the way it is. So we like those. Foresters is great for face-to-face, competitive rates, call in to render a decision to see if it's approved or not. They've got some nice niches like COPD is first day full coverage, for example, somewhat insulin friendly for sure, somewhat diabetic friendly overall, just a good core carrier to use. You also need a guaranteed issue carrier, so no questions asked to cover the people who are in really bad shape. It's interchangeable between Me's, either Great Western. We like that for more of the telesale side. And it's pretty good for face-to-face too. And then there's also AIG. AIG is good really for just the face-to-face side. Again, it has an e-app requirement to complete the app, whereas Great Western doesn't, so I don't like it for telesales. And then Guarantee Trust Life, excellent company for near guaranteed issue situations. You can get conditions like congestive heart failure covered, Suboxone, Narcan, drug use covered. That's unfortunately stuff you'll run across, people with opioid addiction issues or maybe potential issues, and they're prescribed Narcan to stop overdoses. Guaranteed Trust Life is good for that. They get a little bit more coverage than guaranteed issue. So those are the ones right off the top of my head. Some other ones that are like really good: Trinity Family Benefit, excellent face-to-face or telesales carrier, very competitively priced, great underwriting options, and gives instant decisions 90% of the time. So any others you want to add to that, Joe? There's a lot of good carriers out there. I mean, we're in kind of an environment where more carriers are getting with the program and providing good options for their agents for sure.
No, those are the ones. Prosperity, Foresters, AIG, Guaranteed Trust Life. Those are the core carriers that we start agents out with, and those cover a slew of different things. Absolutely.
Yeah, and even when we have agents that join us that have those there's said MLMs out there, guys. There are some that won't release you. And I'll talk about that in a minute, what that means for 12 months. And you may be in a position where you have these carriers already and you can't get it through us. There are plenty of other companies we have. We'd like to work with 25 to 30 of them. And all you need is a solid 3 to 5 to really just have a well-rounded broker approach to selling. So a couple other things here. I will mention that I think are really imperative. When you join an agency, there's some considerations to make. Again, this is all kind of insurance lingo that you may not know if you're brand new to the business. So it's just important to understand. Number one, there's this concept of what's called a release. And that's basically what happens if the relationship with the agency doesn't pan out. And it's important, I think, in business to think of the contingencies of what could happen, as opposed to thinking everything's going to be perfect. Because this is life. Sometimes it isn't. And a lot of these organizations, like I said, look good on the surface, but they're underneath it all. It's just an MLM scheme. And you may find that out too late. Well, one of the things you need to be looking at as a new agent is, can you move, otherwise what's known as a release, get a release of your carriers from that organization to any of your choice if you find out that the relationship, the business model that you joined just wasn't a good fit. And that's important because to some extent, you're going to get accustomed and used to these carriers that you're riding. Worst case, you just get other ones if you're stuck. But it's always a good idea to make sure that you have the capability and the mobility to move those carriers if for some reason the relationship doesn't pan out. Because I'm telling you, if you join an agency, a lot of the time, 3 out of 4 times, if not more, it's an MLM. You don't get the support. You don't get training. Nobody returns your phone calls. You're frustrated running a business. You don't know what to do. And why would you want to do business with them? So move your carriers over. And so talk about that up front. A couple other things really important. Make sure that you're paid directly from the company, from the insurance carrier, not the agency. And also make sure you're 100% vested from the first day. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, if you are paid from the agency and not the carrier, it's likely that you don't own your book of business. So if you get terminated, you won't be paid the residual income on the trails that happen in years 2 through 10 of the policy. And while that's not a lot in the final expense isn't a residual product like a Medicare product. It does add up after doing this for 5 to 10 years. And so you want to make sure that you own your book of business. That technically means vested from the first day. And the indication, one of those indications is you're paid by the carrier. And one reason you want to be paid for by the carrier is because the less hands that touch your money, the better, right? There's always room for error if an agency's involved and in charge of paying you. There's a very big MLM. If I mentioned their 3-letter acronym, you'd know who I was talking about. Some of you would. And they switched several years ago to what's called a line of authority model. It's this model where the commission's paid to the agency and not from the agency to the agent, instead of from the carrier to the agent. And so they're now in control of every single dollar that runs through their agency. And if an agent quits or they leaves, unlike what it was before, they keep that money and you don't get it. And they now have full control to the speed at which you get paid. And again, the guy who runs this, it's an absolute MLM. They did this as a way to make more money for them. You don't do it other than that. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the reason why you do it. And it was just a real, it's a shame because agents don't understand this getting into it. And knowing that difference could be the difference between success and failure, and having an income or a residual stream and not. So there you go. Talk to American Income Life. They have a 10-year vesting. It's a perfect example. AIL, they do a graduated 10-year vesting provision. So that means after a year, you own 10% of your book. After 2 years, you own 20% of your book. So it takes 10 full years to be fully vested. And the reason, my suggestion is, I don't know why AIL does this or not, but here's why I would do it if I was in a similar situation. It's to take more of that residual income from the agent. Because what all agencies know is that most agents fail. And so they're going to monetize as much out of you as possible to take as much as they can, especially if they're in an MLM type of setup. And this is a way with this graduated vesting strategy to prevent you from maximizing your earnings. And unfortunately, a lot of these MLMs is that, you're the target. You know, you're the target to extract the most money out of, to sell you overpriced leads, to require you to pay additional fees, CRM fees, this fee and that fee. And it all adds up to these profit centers for the company. And even if you fail, they still win. That's the model that's dependent on. And if it's not a model of not a profit model based on your success and there being a mutual tie together, that's a problem. I think it's an issue. You know, if you fail and they still win, it should be if you fail, the company fails, right? That's to me the ethical way to look at this. But I'm just one guy saying what I say. Perfect. Joe, any last thoughts here? And if you guys got any questions, this is your last opportunity to answer them. Joe, any last thoughts here and any final words of advice for anybody getting started or thinking about starting in final expense to just give them the best chances of success?
Yeah. You want to be all in on what you're doing. You have to want the money, and you have to have a heart for these final expense people. Want the money and have the heart to do the service. You have to be willing to train. Oh, you know, you brought up, I'm gonna finish with this one because this is really big, and I fell into this, and I think a lot of us do. We have these egos, even if they're kind of like, even if we're in denial about them, we have these egos where we'll do something that a company system says, but because we want control, we will implement kind of our thing into it. It'll be this hybrid mechanism of what the company does and what I decide I want to do. And a lot of that might be where I decide to skip steps. I don't want to do that step. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to add in my little thing. I think the skip step is probably more prevalent, that someone says, out of the 20 steps I'm being told to do to get a deal from point A to point 20 steps, I'm going to skip a couple of steps here and a couple of steps there because I don't want to do it. It makes me feel uncomfortable, or I don't feel the need, and I know what I'm doing. So you need to be humble. You need to be humble, and you need to follow the system. A company has a system in place that works. So our system works. I know this through trial and error, finally submitting to the system all the way. And that's what you need to do coming into this. Don't be the guy like me that would bang himself against the wall and have to figure it out the hard way. Right from the gate, do everything that's in the system that Dave says, and things will work out well for you. So,
and easier said than done.
Yeah.
You know, that's really it. I mean, that's the differentiating factor between success and failures is just like Ed says, successful people do the things unsuccessful people don't want to do. And do that consistently at scale for years, right? That's really the difference in life that I've discovered. Like what I've done, I've knocked on a few things that have really helped me out, I think, in my business, but those things alone weren't responsible. It was the culmination of constant execution daily and the sacrifice of paying the price of doing this, not getting immediate results, but missing out on something else, right? I tell my son, I tell a young man that I work with that we do jujitsu together, I said, dude, I gave up my 20s so I could have a great 30s. And I did. We didn't vacation hardly ever. I wasn't really around my kids that much, especially David and twins first couple of years. But as I arrived in my 30s of successfully executing on the fundamentals of running my sales business as a final expense agent and growing it into an agency, what I've gotten out of this is just tremendous. And it was worth every sacrifice. And you got to decide if it's worth it for you. But that's what it takes to be successful at anything in life, certainly final expense. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. We will have a Q&A call tomorrow live at 11 a.m. Wednesday for anybody who's interested to learn more about joining Duford Insurance Group. If you'd like to learn more about joining us as well as Joe, the Sell Final Expense in person, go to davidduford.com/FAQ. You'll learn all about our sales and marketing system, who's a good fit for our agency, who isn't, and then how to apply if you like what you see. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. And Joe, special thanks to you for being here and taking time to talk us through things. Appreciate you, man.